Welcome to episode 2 of First Possession. Ebony will not be joining us right now, but as you can see, it is me, David, returning, and I'm with my co-host.
John, we here.
And we got a lot of topics to talk about. A lot of things happened over the last week in the NBA, NFL. We're going to talk about James Harden versus Steph Curry. We're also going to talk about the MVP. Who is the MVP, to be specific, of the NFL season? And we're also going to talk about the Bucs because, got a lot of questions about Tom Brady and that squad, But without further ado, let's start off with the first segment. It is the harsh truth of the day, you know what I'm saying? So Russell Westbrook, I've been very critical of Russ over my tenure, on YouTube, talking about sports. But I've seen a lot of people change their minds on Russ over the last couple of years due to his playoff failures. And I honestly agree with a lot of those criticisms. He can put up great numbers, but those numbers really just don't translate to wins the way a lot of people think. Not only does he take plays off on defense to get boards and stuff like that, but I don't think I have to go into too much depth about why triple-doubles are not the best representation of actual winning basketball, especially if you're intending to get a triple-double every night, despite what that could do to your team. But when it comes down to Russ, at the end of the day, this is really his last opportunity to prove that he can contribute towards winning basketball. And it's not to say that Russ hasn't done that before, but we all know there's a ceiling on how great a team can be when you have Russell Westbrook. You can do great in the regular season, but come postseason time, we all just know that play style just doesn't lead to consistent success or the success that a team really aspires to have in the playoffs. For example, 2017 versus the Jazz, that was embarrassing. Guy went out there trying to make a point against Ricky Rubio and got really outplayed. And then look at 2018 versus Dame. That was even worse. I don't think I have to go into too much depth about that. And then this year, now he has an opportunity with Bradley Beal in the backcourt. And sure, you could say defense is not the greatest strong suit. It's not a suit at all, really, for the Wizards. They're terrible on defense. But at the end of the day, he has pieces around him, Davis Bertans, Thomas Bryant, and Bradley Beal, who averaged 30 points a game last year. And you also have rookies like Rui Hachimura. Well, he's not a rookie anymore. He's a sophomore. And you have Danny Advia. So he has some pieces to make it work in Washington. And if Russ is still the guy that I even believe he is, because I still think Russ is the top 20, at the bare minimum, top 25 player in this league and a top 10 point guard as well. So if he's that guy, then he's got to be able to get the job done this year. And if he can't, I'm sorry, I'm going to see him going out the way that like a lot of other guards, like Allen Iverson, for example, went out. And, it's just when you have that kind of usage, it's kind of tough to put you on a team because what are you really contributing to? You can't shoot threes. Your mid-range game, it's there, but it's not consistent enough. It's definitely not what it used to be. But when it comes to Russ at the end of the day, he just got to prove that he can contribute to winning basketball because he's got the pieces to get it done. That's how I feel about it. But what do you think, Jono?
I mean, I will say this about Russell Westbrook. I think the triple doubles are getting tiring. He did it for like 3 straight. Well, the first year he did it, we were like, oh my God, like what was it, like 30 something ish or 48 triple doubles, and it was like he broke Oscar Robinson's record, and we were all like fascinated about like how he could rack up so many numbers and get so many triple doubles. And I think the thing with Russ is the game is passing Russell Westbrook by. The game is moving to a 3-point era. The game is moving to a can you break your defender down? Can you hit perimeter shots? And Russell Westbrook, he had a mid-range game back in Oklahoma City, and now I don't see that mid-range game anymore. The way he misses shots is like, oh my God, do you even know how to shoot the ball? But I think this year he has a chance to really solidify his name as that guy or as that person that can lead his team. He has shown signs of it in the past, like the 2017 Oklahoma City team with Victor Oladipo, Sabonis. Yeah, you might say, okay, you look now and say those guys are good, but back then they weren't this good as they are now. And Russell Westbrook was that guy that was leading that team, to success, to the playoffs. Yeah, they lost, but like he could only go so far with that team. But I feel like this year, he needs to help Bradley Beal make it to the playoffs for one, and he needs to at least do something in the playoffs because I don't see them being higher like a 7-8 seed, and I think 7-8 seed that's pretty good. And you play a team like the Bucs or you play a team like the Celtics in the first round, I think they could make some noise or cause some damage.
Make noise against the Bucs.
Against the Bucs, hey, who knows with the Bucs? Who knows with the Bucs?
No.
I'm just saying.
I know you don't like Giannis, but chill.
Who knows with the Bucs? They did lose to the Knicks.
You think
but
Davis Bertans is stopping Giannis?
I'm saying when you have Russell Westbrook, you never know because he's a guy that can
in the playoffs we know. Oh, we know in the playoffs.
Okay, but he has a running mate in Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, he's a baller. He can score the ball, and I feel like that can take some of the weight off of Russell Westbrook and creating for his teammates, spreading the ball.
You know where Russ is shooting right now, and I know it's
he's shooting awfully. Yeah, I'll give you that.
It's
but
only been 2 games, but the fact that he's shooting 36% from the field, he hasn't made a single 3-point shot.
We've seen that
5
decline.
turnovers a game.
We've seen that decline in the last 5 years, so it's nothing. It's nothing like it's not breaking news. But Bradley Beal, him playing with Bradley Beal, and the score that Bradley Beal is, and add David Bertans and all those shooters around him. They could do something in the East. And the East is not the West, The East, anything can happen.
I mean, of course the East is not the West, but at the end of the day, like, I think that if Russ is the player that we all know he's capable of being, because we've always said it's up here.
Yeah, I think he's still that guy.
You think he's still 2017 guy?
About 20, he could give you 25, 9, and
25 is even he did average 27 last year, so he's not
exactly.
incapable of doing it. And at the end of the year, before the bubble, he was really getting in his bag.
Yeah.
He was hopping in it. But the problem with Russ, honestly, I just feel like because his 3-point shot is it's not even below average. It's just bad.
I think he just needs to stop shooting it. Okay, not totally, not a Ben Simmons situation where you never take it, because I think he can hit like 1 out of every 5 tries, but that's poor. But still, I feel like he can, scare the defense a little bit. And if he can just make the defense come up a bit, that opens the lane up for him to go and attack.
I think that's why, like, when you look at Washington, like, as they're constructed, this is a perfect situation for him. This is really the perfect situation.
There's no pressure. There's no pressure.
They don't have pressure to make a deep playoff run. A lot of their players are young and developing, like Danny and Rui Hachimura. Thomas Bryant also, if you want to throw him in there. And he has shooting and spacing around him. So, but that's also another reason why I think he has to step up. Because there's no excuse for him to, have a bad year.
I'll say there's no pressure, but I don't think we expect them to be a 20-win team. We expect them to win a lot of games,
But that's sad, though.
Beat the teams you're supposed to be. I mean, that's just a situation.
But isn't that still kind of a representation of Russ, though? Because think about it. Russ
would you have said that as a collective, they're not good enough.
Okay, but think about it, right? Well, you just talked about 2017, Russ.
Yeah.
When he was able to carry a roster with Oladipo, who wasn't in shape, Sabonis, who wasn't even what he was now. You have Steven Adams, Andre Robertson, who sagged off. It's 4-on-5 basketball when he's on the court. So that was the team that Russ could carry to the playoffs.
Would you say that team is better than this team, or
I would say this team is better than that team.
I don't know. I mean, it's just Bradley Beal
at least
and a couple
offensively,
of role guys.
But offensively, the thing is, just because you have role players around,
and I would say that Russell Westbrook is better than this Russell Westbrook.
That's the thing. We're lowering the bar.
Yeah.
We're lowering his standards because he is in decline.
Okay.
But if Russ is still the guy that we think he is, in terms of putting a team like on his back, and he doesn't have to put him on his back this year. He has Beal, so he has a guy next to him that averaged 30 last year, unlike 2017, where Oladipo wasn't even what he is now, right? So if he has that, and he has role players that fit, at least offensively speaking, not defensively. Defensively, they're horrible, but offensively, they got role players that fit. What's really the excuse for them missing the playoffs? I
mean, the East has gotten better because the teams that didn't make it last year, or the teams that were not as good enough, like the Atlanta Hawks, they've had some pieces. You expect them to, move up. And the top of the East has gotten way better that, there's not a lot of room for error. And we'll see what he can do with that squad.
Yeah, Russ. I think Russ,
we'll see.
He's somewhat of
you can't say he's on a decline because just last year,
he's on the decline. He's on the
27 points per game last year.
I'm not just because someone's on when you're
and
a great player,
like
you're falling from a height that's high. So, let's say someone's a 10 Next year, they're a 9.5, then a 9, then an 8.5.
I mean,
8.5 is
all of
still
those
really
are pretty,
good.
really good.
Exactly. Russ is like, he's still like an 8, 7.5. You feel me? 7.5 may sound a little low to some people.
8, I'll say
but
8.
I just think that Russ, as great as he is, he's just not, and I don't know how people are going to take this, but I don't believe that Russell Westbrook is a winning player. I don't believe you can win a championship with Russell Westbrook. Hey, it's no disrespect. I'm not saying he's a bad teammate because I've heard a lot of people say that, and that's really a terrible label to give him.
Russell gets a lot of hate for no reason that I don't get, but
he's not a bad teammate. I've heard a lot of people say that he helped Oladipo get to where he is today.
Sabonis,
Sabonis. He's helped a lot of guys develop to where they are today with mentorship and just overall play on the court. But to say he's a bad teammate, that's a really strong label. And when you get that label, it's hard to get it off. Like, for example, Kyrie Irving. He still has not shook that label.
He's a bad teammate. Russell Westbrook, I don't know where that comes from.
I don't know. I
don't know where that comes from.
Tough to say Kyrie's a bad teammate.
I mean, he does have a history. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he does. He's a little sus sometimes. But, Russell Westbrook, you expect the Wizards to make playoffs?
I expect them to make the playoffs. I think about 8 seed would do just fine. 8 seed,
and
7 seed.
There's
the playing game. Yeah, the playing game.
So anything can happen.
I think they should be, because when you have that much firepower in the front court with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, and then you add some shooters like Bertans and rookie Hachimura. When you have all of those pieces, especially in the East, which is not the West, but when you have all of those pieces together and you give Russell Westbrook the ball, let him go to work, let him feed Bradley Beal and the others, I think they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I somewhat agree. I think the play-in is definitely.
Yeah, that would definitely be big for them.
But moving on to the next topic, James Harden and Steph Curry. They're kind of in this situation now where if you go on social media, a lot of people are comparing Steph Curry's situation with the Warriors to James Harden's situations in Houston over the past couple of years for him. Not with the Chris Paul days and all that, but 2015 where Dwight Howard, I believe, only played 41 games. You have 2012 or 2013, I believe, where he had some sus rosters around him. Not the greatest star talent around him, I should say. And now Steph Curry's in a similar situation, with trash Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre, who hasn't made a single three throughout the entire year, looking like he just lost the ability to play basketball. And it's led people to compare James Harden and Steph Curry about who's really the better player, because now Steph doesn't have Clay, he doesn't have KD, and Draymond's out right now. So where do you stand on this debate? Who do you believe is the better player, James Harden or Steph Curry?
The fact that this is even a debate is ticking me off, because you want to bring up Steph Curry's championships and, the 400 threes and multiple MVPs. James Harden, since he became a Houston Rocket, the Houston Rockets have made the playoffs more than any team in the entire NBA. In the entire NBA, the Houston Rockets has made the playoffs. How many seasons since 2012 has James Harden had an all-star teammate? 3 times. 2018 and 2019 last year with Chris Paul and with Russell Westbrook. Those are the only times. I don't think Dwight Howard made the
he was an all-star. He was an all-star
with James Harden. Okay, those 3 times. Dwight Howard for 1 season, even though Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. How many times has Steph Curry had an all-star? Not just 1, not just 2, but on 2 separate occasions.
Hearing this guy?
3 all-stars Steph Curry has played with. James Harden has carried the Houston Rockets for so many years that, his greatness has been taken for granted. Since James Harden has become a Houston Rocket, he has not averaged less than 25 points per game. And in the last 3 seasons, 30 points per game, 35 points per game, and 30 points a game. Those are the last 3 seasons. That's what James Harden has been able to do. He's led the league in scoring. He's led the league in assists. He's led the league in steals. He's been able to do a lot of things that if you take him out of that team, they don't even win 10 games. And, the things James Harden has been able to do with the Houston Rockets and, all the numbers he's been able to put up, how far he's been able to take them. Let's not even mention the fact that he's been the closest player with him and Chris Paul that even came close to upsetting the KD Warriors. That team, he's been the closest one. LeBron couldn't do it. Kawhi couldn't do it. Nobody has been able to.
To be fair, Kawhi did get injured.
Okay, to be fair, nobody's been able to come close to even not even just to take them to Game 7, Game 6, let alone to take that Warriors team and James Harden with the firepower, who I think James Harden is top 3 all time, one of the best offensive players ever.
Wow.
To play the game ever.
Wow.
Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan, I don't see how you put anybody other than James Harden top 3 because he can score the ball at all levels from the three-point line, from the free throw, in the paint. He can score the ball. He can assist his teammates. You know, James Harden has been able to do things that not many other guys in the league can do. And you see Giannis with the amount of talent Giannis has on the Bucs. He hasn't been able to do what James Harden has been able to do. Let's not get on Steph Curry for this season. He's gotten blown out in back-to-back games like 30 and by 40. Let's not get into that. And we seen as James Harden played the first game this season, no preseason, no training camp, quarantine for like about 5 days, and he comes back and gives you 44 and 17 assists. That's James Harden. That's what he's able to do. And he almost beat the Portland Trail Blazers with Christian Wood by himself. Can you name 2 other people on the Houston Rockets right now? You probably can't because he's playing with a bunch of janitors, bus driver, and he's been able to do a lot of things that not many guys in this league can. And I think it's high time that James Harden disrespect stops because he's one of the best players in the NBA. And I think personally, you put LeBron, AD, Kawhi, I don't see how you can put anybody else higher than James Harden right now in the NBA. And he reminded us of that against the Portland Trail Blazers. Like, he's still that guy. He can not get any preseason, no training camp. He can be 5 days in quarantine and come back and still give you those numbers. And he's that guy. And I just don't think Steph Curry is that guy because as we have seen, when he doesn't have Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, he can't really do much, my friend. So James Harden, my friend, is, I think, a lot better than Steph Curry.
I know you guys have heard all of that ridiculous nonsense.
Hey, okay.
And it's time for me to refute that and come with some actual objectivity to the conversation.
Okay.
James Harden is not better than Steph Curry. And this conversation should have ended like 3 years ago. I'm going to be honest with you. As great as James Harden is as a player, we need to understand, especially since they got D'Antoni, his play style does not lead to the success that it should suggest it should lead to. And let me explain something to people. I don't know why people are so obsessed about being able to carry a team. That does not prove that you're a better player. For example, Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry, who's the better player?
Well,
no. Who's
Steph
better?
Curry.
It's not even close, right?
Steph Curry.
But who is more suited to carry a roster with their play style?
Russell Westbrook.
That's my point exactly. Carrying a team doesn't make you the better player because carrying a team could also be about physical advantages. You know, LeBron James and Michael Jordan, for example. I believe that LeBron can elevate a shitty team and take them to a higher level more than Michael Jordan can. It's not to say Jordan can't carry, but it's because LeBron is more physical than Jordan. He's bigger, he's stronger. He can impose his will on the game more. And guys that have a physical advantage have the ability to carry more than guys like Steph Curry. Steph Curry is 6'3", 180 pounds. You know, that's not his game. His game is not physical. His game is to dominate when it comes to skill, you know. But as it pertains to James Harden and Steph, I believe that Steph Curry is the better player because the measurement of being the better player is how well you work within a team. It's not how well you work when you don't have a great team around you. That's not the only measurement of how great a player is. Because at the end of the day, how great of a player are you if you can't take your team far enough? James Harden has had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to show that he is that guy. He failed in 2014 against a second-year Damian Lillard. He failed in 2015 against the Clippers so bad that Josh Smith and Corey Brewer saved him when he was on the bench. He failed in 2017 against the Spurs with no Kawhi Leonard in Game 6. I will repeat, James Harden looked like he was playing for the other team in that game. He was terrible. He was awful. And to this day, I cannot even explain that game at all. You also have 2018, where this guy brought up the fact that he had Chris Paul. They were so close to beating the Warriors. You can't act like James Harden didn't go out there and contribute to 27 missed threes in a row. You missed 27 straight threes, and you're going to sit there and exclude him from that? Yes, they didn't have Chris Paul, and I'm not saying it was like a choke job. Well, that game was a choke job. Yeah, let's just be honest. As a series, it wasn't a choke job, and he did drop 32. But as a team, not James Harden individually, as a team, that was a choke job. He was a part of that, just like anybody else. He went 2 of 13 from behind the arc. That was pathetic. It was awful, and he should be ashamed of himself for how bad it was. And then in the next year, without Kevin Durant, they lose. They lose. And yes, Steph and Clay were there, but let's not forget, they gave up their depth to get KD. So this is not the Warriors team in 2016 without Kevin Durant. It's not. It's not the same team. People always like to say that it's not the same team. Barbosa, let's not forget him. They had a lot of other guys off the bench. That was their logo, strength in numbers. Remember, that was the Warriors thing. So without KD, there was no excuse for them to lose. He got outplayed by guess who in that game? Steph Curry. 33 points in the second half alone. So as far as I'm concerned, Steph Curry, because of the fact that he's more versatile offensively also because his shooting ability, and Harden, the fact that he likes to stick to this ISO game, I got to believe Steph Curry is the better player, in my personal opinion.
My thing is, when you say Steph Curry...
Oh, yeah, and by the way, I don't mean to cut you off, but he said some real blasphemy earlier. He said James Harden is a top 3 scorer or offensive player ever.
Ever.
Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Kobe
James
Bryant.
Harden.
Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe,
not even close.
James, okay.
End that debate. It's not even close. Not even close. Not even close.
I say this to say Steph Curry has had way more to work with than James Harden. You take Steph Curry out of the Warriors and plug James Harden in, they still go back to back.
I don't know.
Yes, they still go back.
That's a weak argument,
yo.
That's
I'm just saying. I'm saying.
You do that with any great player, and that's the same thing, bro. Same thing. Put Dame, they go back to back.
And that's my point. And my thing is, and why I say James Harden is better than Steph is, what do you do when you don't have everything going your way, when you don't have Kevin Durant to save you, when you don't have Klay Thompson to bail you out in Game 6.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
Why not? Why not?
First of all, James Harden got bailed out by role players when he was on the bench against the Clippers. So
in Game 6, what happened in Game 7?
Secondly, people always keep forgetting this. Klay Thompson has not been this great player since the beginning. Steph Curry, I get that maybe you haven't been watching his career before 2015, but let's not act like 2013 with no David Lee, because David Lee was a great player for them back then. He made an All-NBA. David Lee made an All-NBA team.
David Lee.
Stop. Dude, don't do that. Don't downplay him.
Oh, my God. David Lee, what a player. Hall of Famer.
David Lee made the All-NBA.
Baby Shaq, oh, my God.
But think about it. David Lee was an All-NBA performer in 2013, right? And without David Lee, Steph Curry took that team and upset the 3-seeded Denver Nuggets. Not only that, but those teams... Andrew Bogut was injured. Festus Ezeli was starting at center for them. To act like Steph Curry has never carried a roster with subpar talent around him is ridiculous. And then the next year, no All-Stars on his team, and he still leads them to nearly 50 wins. So in my opinion, bro, it's ridiculous. Y'all act like Steph is just not suited to carry a team just because, first of all, it's only been 3 games. It's been 3 games.
3 awful games. Gotten blown out by...
That was an awful game against the...
Damian Lee saved them. He shot...
Oh, my goodness.
He shot 9
Lee?
for 22. 9 for 22 from the field. He had what, 20? So 20
that's not true. Against the Bulls?
Against the Bulls.
No. He shot 11 to 25. He shot 11 to 25 from the field. And he shot 5 of 15 from 3.
Better.
That's 44%. That's not bad, yo. That's Harden's career percentage, if I'm not mistaken, yo.
Relax. Harden had 44 and 17 playing with Christian Wood. And your bus driver
Christian
from
Wood
elementary
is better
school,
than anybody on that Warriors team put together.
And your bus driver from elementary school and your janitor from elementary school. That's who James Harden.
First of all, that's one game, yo.
That's
overtime. One game. That's one game.
What about the Warriors against the Bucs?
This year
they got blown out by 40.
Dude, he's playing with Andrew Wiggins.
40.
Andrew Wiggins is his teammate, bro.
What
Kelly Oubre hasn't made a shot this year.
What I'm saying is, you have to work with what you have. And James Harden, over the years, has worked with what he has had.
Bro, and another thing that y'all also forget, another thing that people forget is that just because you don't have stars on your team or all-stars or Hall of Famers, because I know a lot of people like to use how many Hall of Famers. I've heard a lot of people say how many Hall of Famers are on your team. People need to understand fit matters sometimes just as much as star talent. You can have all the star talent in the world, but if they don't fit, it doesn't matter, right? You agree with that? Fit matters to an extent. Now, granted, the Warriors teams with Steph, KD, and Klay, they fit together, and they were just so talented, nobody was going to beat them, right? But in the case of James Harden, 2015, what was the other year, 2012 or 2013 that he was with Houston with those subpar talent, he still had pieces that fit around him. Let's not forget.
Can we name
them? Wait. I'll name them.
Please,
Let's not forget. Those were the years where James Harden didn't play no defense. He had Patrick Beverly, a great elite perimeter defender. Trevor Reese, a good perimeter defender. Dwight Howard, a good interior presence. And you can't just excuse that. And then in 2015, he had 12-point per game scores off the bench. Josh Smith and Corey Brewer. Josh Smith. Wait, Josh Smith, bro. Stop it. Josh Smith. They saved him. What are you talking about? They saved him in the playoffs, yo.
Okay, he was off in Game 6, and they played good. What about Game 7 where James Harden
He still shot it
inefficiently. But he won that series because he had a great Game 7. But
you can't sit there and
people with Harden's agenda,
there.
They don't want to mention that. They want to bring up the Game 6 and say,
you can't sit
Josh
here.
Smith and Corey Brewer.
Okay, let me ask you this. Who's stronger? James Harden is a stronger player. He's bigger, faster, all of that than Steph, right?
Yeah.
He's more suited. He's more suited to carry a team than Steph,
you can't bring up a body size and like stature
But that matters
when it comes to carrying a team. No, your offensive game, your package.
That's not true,
being a leader, being able to
who has the better offensive package, James Harden or LeBron?
James Harden.
Okay, but who's more physically dominant, James Harden or LeBron?
LeBron.
So you don't think that gives him an advantage to carry a team more than James Harden?
It doesn't matter. You have to be able to galvanize your troops, being able to produce offensively, like being able to. I'm saying this.
You're going with James?
I'm going with James. And I don't think it's even close. James Harden has been a better player over the years than Steph Curry because he's done a lot more to work with than just Steph Curry.
I think that's ridiculous. I think it's absurd. I think Steph Curry is the better player. And this conversation really should have ended in 2019, personally. But
absolutely not.
But this is now time for our commercial break. When we come back, stay tuned because we're going to talk about our most underrated and overrated players so far in the season. And we're also going to talk about the MVP of the NFL season. So stay tuned. We'll be back. Welcome back to First Possession. And for our next topic, so every year, there are always players that get too much praise and too much credit, and we deem them overrated. But there are also some players that don't really get enough credit for what they do and what they can accomplish on the court, the capabilities, the numbers they put up. And in this segment, we're going to talk about our overrated players so far of the year and our underrated players so far of the year, because I feel like there are some players getting too much praise for doing stuff that they haven't done before, even though it's only a couple games. But there are also some players that are doing even more than what they did last year, and they've been doing it for a long time. So, Jono, I would like to know, who's your most overrated player so far?
Let's get right into it. My most overrated player of the season so far is Rudy Gobert. Just coming off a year where he averaged 16, 14, and just right under 2 blocks. The Jazz gave him a 5-year, $205 million contract. Let me repeat that. 5-year, $205 million contract. That's just right over $40 million a year. I'm looking at his numbers. Yeah, if you watch the games, you're like, okay, yeah, he's an impact defender. But you don't give $40 million contracts to guys who you just stand in the paint and block shots. He's not a great perimeter defender. He's just a great shot blocker. And I think you can go out there in the market and find a lot more better play.
I mean, he's a good lob threat, though.
Okay, if you're 6'11", you can catch lobs. That's not even anything. Like, he averaged 16 and 15 last year with just under 2 blocks. The year before, 15 and 13.5, and just with over 2 blocks. And that takes me back to, I want to use an example of Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond had like a 3-year span in Detroit where he was averaging.
Hey, don't mention that bum, yo.
2019, 2020,
that dude stinks.
2018, he was averaging like 20 points. 19 rebounds. He was a 2020 instant
don't
guy
bring up Andre
every night. And the Jazz gave Rudy Gobert A $205 million contract. Yes, you might say, okay, he means a lot to the team, and he catch lobs.
Small market, bro. Small market. Yeah.
But I can't think of how many times he's even had like over 5 blocks in a game. Like if you look at Hassan Whiteside,
he's done that before, yo.
But not if you look at Hassan Whiteside. I think Hassan Whiteside has had a lot more.
Hassan is not better than that dude. Chill.
I'm not saying it's better. What I'm saying is you can go out there in the market and get a lot more guys that can do a lot for you than just splashing $40 million on Rudy Gobert. And the Jazz haven't done anything in the last 3 seasons with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell as their best 2 players. And I think just spending that much money on one player and somebody of Rudy Gobert's caliber, I think that's a huge mistake to make. To just splash that $40 million. That's a lot of money to pay Rudy Gobert for just to catch lobs and stand in the paint and block shot. He's not an Anthony Davis where you can say, go out there and guard a 3 guy, or go out there and guard a Jimmy Butler, go out there and guard Kevin Durant. You have 6'11" guys that can do that. Rudy Gobert, he's not that. He's just stand in the paint, block shots. And I don't think that's a $40 million player.
Well, I'll say this. I'm not really one to defend. I've defended Rudy Gobert a lot to a lot of people because I think a lot of people just look at the fact that he gave the NBA COVID-19 and they just say he stinks. But I think Rudy Gobert, not Gobert. I know people that just be mispronouncing his name.
It's French.
People mispronounce. I'm not gonna lie. People mispronounce his name on purpose at this point. But Rudy Gobert, he's a good player, but I don't agree with them giving him all that money. So
205.
I can understand your reason, but it is a small market, and you have to overpay a lot of players in small markets. Even though I think they should have just traded him personally. I've been saying for years they need to trade him because he's peaked already on defense. We've seen he can anchor a historic because they were a historic defense at a point. They were holding teams to under 100 points a game at a point in time. But my overrated player, this is going to piss a lot of people off. So far this year, as pertains to the last 3 games, and the way people have been boosting this guy, I think it's Trae Young. I think Trae Young.
What?
I think Trae Young. I think Trae Young is extremely overrated right now. First of all, people are talking about the numbers he's been putting up. They played. Let me list the teams that they've been playing. The Bulls. That's my favorite team, but we stink. The Bulls. The Pistons. They stink. The Grizzlies, who don't even have Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. I'm sorry, people are just acting like he's playing great comp right now. The Hawks look great. I'm not gonna lie, they could make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? But if Trae Young, is being judged off of 3 games against shitty competition, and people are going out, I've heard people say Trae Young is better than Steph Curry.
Okay, that's a stretch.
That's ridiculous, yo. Just because he's putting up numbers on shitty teams? No, that's not how this works. And at the end of the day, yo, I think people need to understand that Trae Young's defense is so bad. It is so bad that when he's on the court, you might as well already put points for the other team because he's giving up just as many points as he's scoring. But regardless, I think he's been getting a little overrated right now, but that's nonetheless. But moving on to my underrated player.
Hold on. Let me address the Trae Young argument because that is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, brother.
Trae Young averaged 30 points per game last season.
What did they win?
On a bad team.
What did they win?
And now this year, he's averaging 30 points again at just 6 feet. He's not even the tallest of guys. He's about 6 feet. I think give him a stretch 6'1". He's averaging just over 30 points a game.
But they're playing the Bulls.
But they're winning.
The Pistons?
Last year, they didn't win those games.
Pistons?
Last year, they didn't win those games. And this year, they're winning those games.
Okay, I'll tell you this. Last year, Trae Young, last year, I remember people were boosting the Hawks all because of 2 games I remember he hit a game winner on the Magic, right? And I remember everybody was boosting. They were like, oh, Trae looks amazing, blah, blah, blah. They went on to become garbage. So do not overreact to 3 games,
But what the Hawks have done this postseason, or this offseason rather, is they've surrounded him with guys that can play make, guys that can defend. Yeah, you mentioned he's not a great defender.
Awful. Historically awful.
Okay, but what you do with those is you put pieces around them. You put defenders around them that can guard people so that it takes some of the pressure off of them defensively. And I think when you're just that great of an offensive player, what you do on defense doesn't. Not that it doesn't matter, but I mean, you can take time on defense off on defense when you're just that great offensively.
No, let me say this though, because we got to name our overrated players. For my underrated player, or excuse me, we've got to name our underrated players. My underrated player is Chris Middleton. I think Chris Middleton's been amazing so far. He's averaging, he's averaging 27, 7, and 6 on 53, 45, 100 shooting splits. He's been amazing. We all know he's a good two-way player. If he can keep this up, maybe he can be that second guy for Giannis in Milwaukee. So
I mean, with Chris Middleton, we have seen, you see the talent, you see the skill, but can he be that second guy for Giannis in the postseason? And over the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to produce, the same amount of production from the regular season to the postseason. He hasn't been able to produce that, but we'll see. Yeah. For me, my underrated play is the Indiana Pacers emerging star, Domantas Sabonis.
He's a star. Everybody, he is a legitimate star. Yes, that is a fact.
He is putting people on notice. He's averaging 24 and 12 rebounds. That's MVP numbers. The Pacers are 3-0.
I don't know about that one, yo.
They just beat the Celtics.
I don't know about that one.
I mean, I think if they can be a top 3 seed in the East, he will get some consideration because I don't think this team, the Indiana Pacers team, is Oladipo's team anymore. It's not his team. It's Sabonis' team. True. Coming off a year of making his first All-Star game, he's putting up huge numbers now. The Pacers are winning. They're building pieces around him. And I think it's about time he starts getting some recognition. Because the Pacers can be really good if they just run the ball through him.
They got some pieces around him. Yep. They can do some things.
Absolutely.
But moving on to our next segment, we're going to talk about our biggest takeaways from Week 1. A lot of things happened in Week 1. James Harden returned. Steph Curry had his game with the Bulls. Damian Lee hit that weird
Steph Curry won a game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, this guy. A lot of things happened. Christian Wood also made his debut. He looked amazing. But as far as my biggest takeaway, though, from Week 1, it's that Andrew Wiggins is back to being Andrew Wiggins. This guy is straight up pathetic. He looks like he doesn't care about the game anymore. Well, if he ever actually has cared about the game. I don't know what kind of practice he's putting in. Currently, I know it's only been 3 games, but currently Andrew Wiggins is averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds. I'm going to be specific with this here because this is really pathetic. 1.7 assists to 1.7 turnovers. Awful assist-to-turnover ratio. And he's shooting 33% from the field and 31% from 3. This guy is pathetic. He can't defend anybody. He couldn't defend a broomstick if I put it in front of him because he's so inconsistent. 1 minute, Andrew Wiggins can look like, oh, that's the guy that was drafted number 1 for a good reason because he's athletic. He has spark. He can be a good slasher. But then the next minute you see Andrew Wiggins and you're like, bro, why is he even on an NBA roster? He is pathetic sometimes. Mentally, he's soft. I can see why Jimmy Butler called him soft. No, I'm not going to address Cat's part of it. But regardless, Andrew Wiggins to me is my biggest takeaway because he was supposed to be the X factor for the Warriors. If he had stepped up and lived up to just half of the capabilities that we all know he possesses physically, then the Warriors would be far better than where they are because this guy is awful. Like, straight up, he is terrible. And I know Kelly Oubre hasn't helped matters, but at least with Oubre, he's been an inconsistent player his whole career. He never had the expectations of Andrew Wiggins. And with how bad Oubre is playing, not even making a single 3 so far, I just think that's a really bad shooting slump. I hope he can piece it together, but with Wiggins, I've seen enough to where I'm like, yo, get him off that team immediately. But, yeah, man, what do you think about
all I just
this
heard
so far?
From what he just said is failure to hold Steph Curry accountable.
Oh, brother.
Failure to openly say Steph Curry has played awfully these first 3 games.
Dude, it's 2.
Andrew
He played
Wiggins
good against the Bulls.
averaging 15
He played
points
good
a
against the
game.
Bulls, bro. He played good against the Bulls.
Okay, he played average. Got blown out by 30, got blown out by 40. And you bringing up Andrew Wiggins averaging 15. I don't think he can. Okay, yes, you say he has the talent to be a 20-point per game scorer, but
At least
15 is it's manageable. You can work with that.
But not on that shooting.
Okay,
not on
okay,
that
not
shooting.
on that shooting. But I think you're just trying to not call out Steph Curry and just pushing the blame onto somebody else. Andrew Wiggins, okay, Kelly Oubre, that's another discussion because he's been bad. But Andrew Wiggins, I think he's played a little bit of his part. And yes, he can.
What part?
Yes,
what is he doing?
Yes, he can be better.
He's just running, yo.
Yes, he can be
He's
better.
just
but
running.
I feel like if Steph Curry would be better, and would shoot the ball better and would lead his team better and would, make better, the Warriors could be a lot less awful than they are. Not better, they could be a lot less awful than her.
But to be fair, Steve Kerr is running like the same offense that they have with KD and Clay. And
Okay,
I don't
but
think.
you can't
wait,
do that,
I know.
though,
I'm
because
saying
he's not KD.
I know. I'm saying like he needs to change up the system a bit because Wiggins is not Clay. Oubre is not KD.
Yeah.
So I think honestly they should just let Steph dominate the ball every possession. Let him do his ISO because that's what he's got to do.
You got to go to Mike D'Antoni
because if you saw that Bulls game, Steph eventually just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I got to do, and I'm gonna carry the team on my back." So if Steph has that mentality, that's fine. The only thing I really get concerned when he does that is his health, because Steph has been injury prone before, and before they got Steve Kerr, Mark Jackson had Steph on ball a lot, very ball dominant, and he did suffer a lot of injuries.
I think he better rack up his numbers this season because they're not going anywhere. They're going to be like, the 13th seed, so he better just score as many points as he can.
Okay, but what's your takeaway?
My biggest takeaway from NBA Week 1 is the Clippers are always going to be the Clippers. You can run from it, you can hide from it. The Clippers will always be the Clippers. Without Kawhi Leonard, yes, that's your star player and that's your best player. But that is no excuse to lose by 50. 50 points to Luka Doncic and the Mavericks.
Fun fact, by the way, if the Mavericks never scored in the second half of that game, they still would have beat the Clippers.
That's ridiculous. That is absurd. They lost by 50 points to Luka Doncic and the Mavericks without Porzingis. Porzingis didn't play. It was basically just Luka and a bunch of role guys that were just, going off. And, Paul George, you said this is your year, your MVP, you're back with your trainer, you about to be on motherfuckers' asses.
It was Doc Rivers' fault, guys. It was Doc Rivers. He wasn't using them right.
What was that? 50 points they lost to the Mavericks. But to be fair, the Mavericks, they're not really a good team. Yeah, Luka Doncic is Luka, but they've been disappointing. They got blown out by the Lakers on Christmas Day, so you can't say oh my God, Kawhi was. We didn't have Kawhi.
They don't got Porzingis right now.
Yeah, they don't have Porzingis. That's why I'm saying you had no excuse to lose by 50 because the Mavericks, they're not really at full strength yet. They're not a team yet. So the Clippers, they better get their act together because I think that's what happened with them last year is they had their eyes on the Lakers. And Denver caught them sleeping. So I think the Clippers better get their act together because if they don't, they will be out in the second round again this year.
Hell, they could even suffer a first-round exit, honestly.
If they meet the wrong team, I think they can. Oof. So the Clippers better get their act together or it's going to be another repeat of last year.
I mean, to be fair, when it comes to the Clippers, I will say, it is just one game. And if you look around the league right now, a lot of weird stuff is happening. The Bucs just lost the Knicks of all teams. The Knicks. But regardless, a lot of teams didn't have a lot of time to build chemistry in the offseason. There's still some moving parts of the team. Luke Kennard is a big piece they got to integrate onto that roster. Also, Ibaka, that's another player. Still no excuse to go out there and lose by 50 to the Mavericks.
And I think with the Clippers, they have to solidify who their third guy is. Montrezl Harrell is gone now. Now you have Lou Williams. I think Luke Kennard has a talent to be the third guy. He can shoot the ball. He can play make. Is Serge Ibaka that guy? He's just a piece you can plug in there. So I think, them solidifying who the third guy is. Lou Williams, I don't know what the hell's been wrong with him since the bubble last year because he hasn't been the same guy. So if they can find out
to be fair, Lou Williams stinks.
He's stunk it up the last couple of games, going from the bubble to into this
Playoff
year.
Lou Williams is one of the worst players of all time.
All
time. And
I think the Clippers, they got to get their act together because this season, there's not much room for error. It's only 72 games, so you can't go on a losing streak of about 5-6 games. You're going to be from the outside looking in.
Especially in the West.
Especially in the West. So I think, they better get their act together, get chemistry together, get all of that figured out because the Lakers are getting better and they're getting stronger. So,
the Lakers did just lose to the Blazers, though.
okay, but but they didn't lose by 50 to the Mavericks. So
Yeah, they
I
did
think
blow
the
out the
Clippers
Mavs.
gotta get their act together. Ty Lue better figure this thing out and figure it fast because
Ty Lue, though,
let's
he's a
say,
good
knock
coach.
on wood, Kawhi Leonard gets hurt. What do you do? Where do you go from there? If they can find that, because they got the scores, they got the players to
I will
to
say
produce. So.
when something that kind of showed itself to me before we move on is without Kawhi, like mentally, that team is not the same. Because when you put Kawhi on a team, he brings this. I know he's not the most vocal leader, but he brings
They
this
don't
aura.
have a leader.
Yeah, I know he's not. I think Ty Lue's going to be that for them because he's
He's
very
the
vocal.
player, though.
I
One of the
know.
players.
But when it comes to Kawhi, though, like he brings this like not this
Like
this
quiet
feel.
assassin.
Yeah, like this assassin, and you just watch him, and you're like, man, I gotta step my game up now. This guy's hooping, and he's not even saying nothing.
Yeah.
You feel me? So you saw it in Toronto. Even I think that mentality even is still in Toronto. Toronto doesn't feel like that choking team they used to be. Kawhi gave them that edge that they need to push in the playoffs and not be the underperformers they used to be. But yeah, man, those are our takeaways from week 1. And when we return back from the commercial break, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes, who is the MVP of the NFL season. Stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to First Possession and the NFL season, bro. This has been a very, very, very exciting year. I think a lot of people kind of had some low expectations because of the fans and all that, but I still think it's been a great year.
Absolutely.
And it's been highlighted by multiple players. You got Derrick Henry in Tennessee doing his thing. You got Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, Russell Wilson, let Russ cook in Seattle. You got a lot of good things going on in the NFL, but it's really been highlighted by 2 guys, and it's Patrick Mahomes, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, and Aaron Rodgers, who I believe is the most talented quarterback that we've ever seen in the game. Patrick Mahomes is coming for that title, don't get me wrong, but as of now, I still got Aaron Rodgers. But who do you believe is the MVP of the season so far? It's already over. Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes?
I think Mahomes is the NFL's MVP. Aaron Rodgers had a great game on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans, but Patrick Mahomes is on the best team in the NFL. He has 38 TDs and 6 interceptions. 6 interceptions is just one more than Aaron Rodgers. I know people like to say, Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw picks. And 3 of those 6 interceptions that Patrick Mahomes threw was in one game. And they won. So you can't take it, but if you just X out that game, he has 38 TDs and 3 interceptions. That's absurd. That's superb. He's threw over 4,740 yards. That's 700 more than Aaron Rodgers. 700 more yards than Aaron Rodgers. He's 66%. He's completed 66% of his passes. He has an 82% quarterback rating. I think all of those numbers are absurd. And you add that into the fact that his team is 14-1. They've only lost 1 game, and they lost to the Raiders. That game was a debacle. We all know the Raiders stink now. But he's only lost 1 game. If you take out that game, they're undefeated. The Chiefs have been great. They have the best firepower in the entire NFL. I think Patrick Mahomes is the MVP right now. Yes, he had a bad game on Sunday. Yes, he stunk it up. And A-Rod, increased his MVP odds, but I think Patrick Mahomes locked this MVP about a couple of weeks ago, and
A couple of weeks ago.
Aaron Rodgers has had a great year, but Patrick Mahomes has locked it because he's on the best team in the NFL. In the AFC, the AFC is harder this year, as we know, than the NFC, and he's tore every team apart.
Sure, it's very tough facing the Broncos and Drew Lock.
It's tough, but I will give it to Patrick Mahomes because his team is the best team in the. One loss. You can't beat that. With 38 TDs and 6 interceptions.
Well,
that's hard. That's hard to convince me that guy is not your MVP. Because if you look at it from a couple of years now, and you say, okay, the Kansas City Chiefs went 15-1, went all the way to the Super Bowl, and won the game. Who was MVP that year? And if it's not Patrick Mahomes with these numbers, yeah, that would be very hard to believe. And a lot of people are going to be asking a lot of questions.
Well, I believe that it's Aaron Rodgers. And the reason I do is because I believe Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. You can kind of still debate that a bit.
Yeah.
But I believe that the MVP is a fluid thing. It's a season thing. and I think Aaron Rodgers has had a better season than Patrick Mahomes. They've both had their fair share of bad games. To be specific, Patrick Mahomes against, I cannot remember the team right now, but whatever play that he ran backwards and lost 25 yards on, that was embarrassing. And he threw 2 picks, I believe, in that game. Not only that, but I believe that Aaron Rodgers, time after time after time, people need to understand that he can make nobodies look good. Scantling is not that good. Lazard is not that good. Those are guys that, if they were with any other quarterback, I guess aside from who?
Patrick
Mahomes, they'd be losers. And it's credit to Mahomes as well. Rodgers and Mahomes are just on another level. But Mahomes still has Tyreek Hill. He still has Travis Kelce.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? Those are 2 of the best at their position. Regardless, I don't care what else is around them. Sure, they don't have a great running game.
It's arguable between Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams right now who the best receiver in the NFL is.
But who's the most explosive receiver out of those
Tyreek
2?
Hill.
Tyreek Hill. And if you imagine if Aaron Rodgers had Tyreek Hill, yo. That would not
imagine
be fair.
if Patrick Mahomes has Devon. We can't do that because they both have all world talent receivers. And for people who want to defend Aaron Rodgers, defend him, but don't belittle his receivers. Valdez-Scantling, these guys, they're explosive too. They can run, they can catch. Allen Lazard, these guys are pretty good. Like, I don't know why
I'm saying they're scrubs, but
that's what you're trying to make them seem like. They're not scrubs. These guys can ball.
Come on now.
And let's not even talk about Green Bay Packers, who have one of the best running games in the entire NFL. If you give Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers' offensive line, and Aaron Jones, that play action game could be unstoppable, literally.
To be fair, though, they don't even utilize their run game. That's more so on the coaching
Okay,
team.
because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's not the biggest of running backs yet. They use it here and there, but Le'Veon Bell has played just a couple of games, but they haven't really integrated
what about Travis?
into their
What about
team.
Travis Kelce?
But the play action game that the Green Bay Packers have with Aaron Jones, that just opens everything up. And yes, I'm not discrediting Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying no, he's not had a great season. But I think Patrick Mahomes he's been better with his numbers. 700 more yards than Aaron Rodgers.
Let's say
that's
this.
a lot.
But time out. But you just talked about the running game.
Yes.
Of course, you're going to have less yards when you're utilizing your running game more. And also, not only that, Aaron Rodgers has completed over 4,000 yards. He has 44 touchdowns on the year, which is leading the league. He has completed 70% of his passes, which might even be a career high if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He has 5 interceptions to his 44 touchdowns, which is just outstanding. And he has zero interceptions in the red zone, which is extremely impressive. Not only that, he has an 84 QBR, which leads the league, I should add, which I will admit Mahomes does have 82 QBR, so it's not too much of a gap between the two, but he still has more. And he also is completing 270 yards per game. So the numbers, when you contextualize everything, still it can be in favor of Aaron Rodgers, yo.
You know, it's not like Patrick Mahomes has 30 touchdowns or 15 interceptions. Yeah, but I'm saying when you take the numbers, it's neck and neck, and then you look at who has the better record. Mahomes is 14-1. A-Rod is 12-3. And you take all of that into consideration. And Patrick Mahomes, I think he's had bigger spurts of, great performances. And he before Sunday game when he stunk it up, he was the front runner for MVP. And Aaron Rodgers came and, just tore the Tennessee Titans apart. And everybody's like, oh, now Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. Mahomes no longer. No, I think Mahomes is still the MVP, and he should win the MVP.
I mean, but to be fair, at the end of the day, it still does come down to the fact that he has Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest player in the NBA.
And A-Rod has Devontae Adams as his wide receiver.
And it's the Dolphins that I remember. The Dolphins, he threw 2 interceptions early in the game.
The Dolphins, one of the best defensive teams in the entire NFL.
That's still no excuse, yeah.
And we seen what happened when Aaron Rodgers played one of the best defensive teams in the NFL, the Bucs. He stunk it up. And Mahomes tore that defense apart.
Defense is overrated, yo. Chill.
They're still one of the best in the league.
Chill.
What did Mahomes do
that
to
secondary?
What did Mahomes do to the Bucs defense? Yo. What did Mahomes do to the Bucs defense? Aaron Rodgers had 10 points. 10 against the Bucs.
No, the Packers had 10 points.
Who was the quarterback for the Packers?
Aaron Rodgers had 10 points. Mahomes tore that defense apart.
Okay,
He
they
had
lost to the Raiders, though, yo.
Almost 300
They
yards
lost to the
in the first half.
Raiders. The Raiders.
Okay, they lost. They still hung
And he's
32
still
on them.
in the division where he plays the
Okay,
Raiders
the Packers
twice.
lost to the Vikings. Call off. I mean, come on. They lost to the Vikings. Minnesota Vikings. So Kirk Cousins.
Moving on to the next segment, we have the Miami Dolphins. So this man, Ryan Fitzpatrick, yo.
Fitzmagic.
is killing it, bro. He is killing it. He came in again. I believe he threw like what? Almost 200 yards.
Almost 200 yards.
Almost 200 yards. 2 touchdowns, I believe. And Fitzmagic once again saves the day for the Miami Dolphins. And it's kind of caused a little bit of some stir in the NFL. And it's made people think if Tua and Fitz can keep coexisting like this without some controversy, because I remember a similar situation happened in Philly where Nick Foles, granted, Nick Foles wasn't doing stuff in the regular season like that, but he came in the playoffs and just took over, and it was a whole different vibe. He led that team to their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history. And a lot of people have been asking, is there a dilemma at the QB position between Tua and Fitz? I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to give my thoughts.
So with the Miami Dolphins situation, quarterback situation, I will say this. I think Brian Flores is doing an absolutely phenomenal job with that squad. They have one of the best defensive teams in the entire NFL. But when you look at the quarterback situation, I think the Miami Dolphins, they started off at 1-3 and won a couple of games in a row, and they decided to go from Fitzmagic to Tua Tagovailoa. And I think doing that is giving Tua the chance to learn on the fly. And when you have a coach like Brian Flores who's constantly talking to Tua Tagovailoa, telling him what plays to do, what things to do, and given that whole situation, he's basically telling Tua, go out there and be you. And when you can't be you, we have somebody else who can save you, who can, come in and change situations. As we seen in the game against the Raiders, Tua Tagovailoa was having a rough time, reading plays, breaking the defense down. And that's when you have a backup quarterback like Fitzmagic who comes in and said, this is how it's done. And as we've seen in the quarterback situation in Philly, and Tua is still very young. It's his first year. So I would like to give him a huge break. Like if the Miami Dolphins make the playoffs.
Would you play Fitz over Tua?
I would play Tua Tagovailoa because you don't want to bring his confidence down. You don't want to,
he is experienced.
He has played in a lot of very big games, and you don't want to bring his confidence down. So I would throw him in there. But if I see early on that things might not be going his way or halftime, it won't be bad to pull him out and say, okay, Tua, just sit on the sideline for a bit, watch Fitzmagic go to work, because Fitzmagic can save them in any.
See that
Fitzmagic, I think.
Okay,
if you want to overblow the Nick Foles backup, I think Fitzmagic is one of the best backup quarterbacks ever to play the game. And
who cares about that, yo? That's a backup.
He can come in and he can do a lot of things that most average quarterbacks in the NFL can't. And having Fitzmagic as your backup quarterback, especially for a rookie like Tua, that doesn't hurt. It gives him time to sit on the sideline sometimes and just watch Fitzmagic, who is a seasoned NFL vet, go to work. And, I think Brian Flores is doing a good job of talking to Tua constantly, telling him, hey, we're not pulling you out because you suck. We're not pulling you out because you're a bum. We're pulling you out on certain times because, things might not be going your way. You might not be reading the defenses right. And Fitzmagic, coming in as a backup and helping them, win some games, will be really key to how far they can go in the playoffs.
I mean, I'll say this. It doesn't even matter how you start. It matters how you finish the game.
Absolutely.
And that is a very true concept, especially in the NFL. Because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is win. Doesn't matter how you get the job done. But I think we've seen enough from Ryan Fitzmagic. Let me say that and get his name right. We've seen
I think they
enough
lose that game against the Raiders if he doesn't come in.
Yeah, of course. Right. But we know what he is. He's a backup. He's
nothing really more, good backup.
But he's nothing more than that. He's had opportunities to be a starter, and we see what he is. He's not a starter. Even Nick Foles, people were saying they should pick, as much as I get on Carson Wentz, the fact that people were saying they should pick Nick Foles over Carson Wentz was ridiculous. Nick Foles is a backup and nothing more than a backup. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a backup and nothing more than a backup. And people need to understand, just because a backup can come in and have a few good games, that's it. That's what a backup is supposed to do. Come in and have a few good games. Just keep the team afloat while the starter is out. And sure, Fitz is clutch. He can have some very clutch moments, but don't embellish in those moments to the point that you're challenging a guy who was drafted in the first round. That is ridiculous, you know? So to me, I think it's obvious that Tua is their starting quarterback. He's the face of the franchise, and anybody that tries to even, you know, debate that is ridiculous. I don't even think if Tua goes in, I don't care if he's thrown 3 interceptions in the first half. You keep him in that playoff game.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Yes,
not.
you
And,
do.
and I think when
Yes,
you have a backup quarterback like Fitzmagic, that gives Tua the opportunity in some cases to make certain mistakes.
But also,
and Fitzmagic can come off the bench
what has
and
Fitz
bail
done in
him
the
out.
playoffs? He's never done anything in the playoffs. He's a regular season clutch performer.
Okay.
So what? You're just gonna throw him in the fire because he did some stuff in the regular season?
Yes, because he's just that good. He makes certain plays sometimes.
He's just that good?
Regular quarterbacks in the NFL can't even make some throws like you see. If you watch the end of the game against the Raiders, that was an amazing. Literally, his neck was backwards, and he made that throw. You know, to save their possibly save the season and make the playoffs. You know, and I think with Fitzmagic, I think. In the playoffs, you start Tua, but if you see his struggling early, you pull him out and say, okay, now is not your time, kid. You have a lot of room to learn. Watch Fitzmagic go to work.
I mean, to be fair, Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you're talking about the regular season, I 100% agree. He's somebody that comes in and is clutch as hell. But as far as the playoffs go, I think experience is more valuable than that. Especially if you're already down to the point that the game's over.
Yeah.
I think you leave Tua in. Throw him
I
in
mean, if
fire,
the game
you
is
know?
over, yeah, just let him play. But like early, like I said, if you see Tua struggling early, like let's say in the first half, you're
That's
down
giving
to,
up on
like,
him. You're giving up on him in his
No,
first
you're
playoff
not.
game,
that's
yo.
that's why
That's hurting his confidence.
That's why I come in and say Brian Flores does a good job of telling Tua, we know you're not a bum. We drafted you as a top 5 pick because we know you're that good. But now is not your time. Just learn the game and learn how to win games in the playoffs. And Fitzmagic, I think, as a backup quarterback, he can be that guy for the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, then let me ask you this. If Ryan Fitzpatrick plays well in a playoff game, right? Let's say he comes in, plays well. Would you start him for the rest of the playoffs?
Ooh. I think I would. I think I would.
I don't know, yo.
I think I would. Like if the Miami Dolphins are playing, I don't know. Right now they're slotted to play like a Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh wait, they not beating us, yo. We not losing to Ryan Fitzpatrick, bro. Chill out. That's no.
We've seen the Steelers. You guys have a lot of
I
questions.
know you saw us this past week with our comeback win against the Colts, yo.
But you were down early. But you have a lot of questions.
It's cool. It's cool. Don't worry
And I
about it.
think if the
Don't worry.
Miami Dolphins with that defense, they can catch you sleeping. And, you know, if Tua is struggling against that Steelers defense, Fitzmagic can come in and, you know, have a great time. And then if they advance the next game, I will start Fitzmagic. I will tell Tua, hey, just sit on the sideline, watch Fitzmagic go to work, and, you know.
Okay, well, if he does
help
that,
the
we all
Dolphins.
know.
And if he doesn't, it's still fine. He gets some experience under his back, and, you know, they move on.
All right, well, before we go to commercial break, when we return, Jono will tell us his top 10 NFL teams after Week 15. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to First Possession, and we are here with our final couple of topics before we leave you guys today with Episode 2. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been one of the biggest stories of the NFL over the last year. And so far, they are, I believe, 10-4.
Yeah, 10-5.
10-5 at the recording of this video. And as good as the Bucs have looked at points in the season, they've had some rough struggles. They lost to the Bears. Nick Foles beat Tom Brady yet again. They got destroyed by the Saints twice. And now we're at this crossroad where they're a wild card team. They could make some noise, but nobody really knows. Nobody thinks anything is certain with this team, the ways the Saints are and the Packers are. But, John, what do you think about I'm about to say Patriots. I got caught up in the Brady sauce. What do you think about the Bucs? How far do you think they can go? Can they make it a run at the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can make it to the Super Bowl. And I think they, as a team right now, they're catching fire. Yes, they've had a couple of questionable games.
You mean against the Lions?
They're catching fire as a team. The defense is galvanizing. Tom Brady is playing absolutely phenomenal. He's playing at an all-time level now. And, a lot of people want to say Tom Brady
all-time level.
Tom Brady is washed and this and that. But let me give you some of his numbers. Tom Brady has thrown for over 4,000 yards. 4,234 to be exact. That's how much yards he has thrown for. Is that pretty good? I think so. And he's thrown for 36 TDs and 11 picks, 36 touchdowns. That's just 2 less than Patrick Mahomes, who we're talking about as an MVP candidate. That's how good Tom Brady is playing right now. And you put in with Jones, their running back, you plug that in. Gronk is catching some passes. Mike Evans is going to be Mike Evans. And then you bring in Antonio Brown to, relieve Mike Evans off of all of that weight. And you plug him in there with Chris Godwin and their team as a whole. That offense can be lethal in the playoffs. If you don't have a good enough defense to stop that team, they can catch you slipping. And we all know about Playoff Tom. Playoff Tom, he goes to work, and
But what's that secondary looking like though?
Okay, first of all, they have one of the best defenses in that front seven. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Like? What is that secondary?
And I feel like the front seven can put enough pressure that it can relieve some pressure off the secondary, because that's what happens when your secondary is not good enough. The front seven has to apply pressure, and I think the Bucs, they can apply a lot of pressure to a lot of teams, and I think the Bucs, they're good enough because they have the weapons to make plays. On both offense and defense, they have the weapons to make plays, and I think if they catch the wrong team at the wrong time, I mean, if you look at the teams down the line, I think they can beat the Packers. They already did. They blew them out. The Saints.
That was a one-time thing, yo.
The Saints, they've gotten embarrassed both times they played the Saints, but I think, playoff Tom can come through and they can catch the Saints sleeping. The Seahawks, I don't think anybody really believes in them.
Hey, let Russ cook, yo.
Let Russ cook. He cooks sometimes, but as a team, I don't think they're really good. And, the Bucs, I look at the talent they have on the offense, and I say, this team can do a lot of damage if they catch the wrong team. And that's where I'm at. I think they're good enough. Will they do it? We're here to see that but I'll tell you one thing. They're catching fire right now. They're really hot, and they're playing really good football.
I'll say this. When it comes to the Bucs, I think the Bucs have all the talent in the world, primarily on the offensive end. They got a great receiving core. That Antonio Brown pickup just put them over the top. They got some nice tight ends, O.J. Howard, Rob. Their running game is really nothing. Like, they don't have a running game at all.
I mean, when you have that
honest
caliber of weapons of wide receiver.
Yeah, I know, but the play action is still important.
Yeah.
And you want to have that there. I just think the issue is when Brady is throwing that many times due to not having a running attack, eventually a team just going to full out blitz him.
Yeah.
And Brady is awful against the blitz. We saw what happened against the Saints in I believe that was week 3?
Yeah.
And that was embarrassing. That was flat out embarrassing. Brady I think that might have been the worst game of his entire career. And I'm not even trying to
they scored
I'm not
3
forcing.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, to kick a field goal because you didn't want to get shut out. Embarrassing. That is the definition of embarrassing. That's a joke.
So you don't think they're good enough to make it?
I don't think so, man. I think you run into the wrong defense that can just apply that pressure. I just think it's a wrap. I think so.
Also, the thing about applying pressure on Tom
especially
Brady
if they run into the Saints.
When you apply pressure, that gives the wide receivers one-on-one. And the Bucs have receivers who can beat DBs and safeties one-on-one.
But how fast are they going to beat them if you're just putting a full-out blitz on them?
That's just
It's not like they got a Tyreek Evans that can be so explosive off the line.
Hill.
I mean, I'm getting my Tyreeks mixed up. Tyreek Hill. They don't have a Tyreek Hill that's so explosive out of the line or anything. So.
Nah, I think they're good enough. Yes, a lot of people are sleeping on them. I mean, they are 10-5, which is one of the best teams in the NFC. Yes, they've struggled against playoff teams, but I think with the weapons they have at their disposal,
you can't just ignore that, yo. You hear what you just said? They struggled against playoff teams. You can't just ignore that, yo.
But we all know Tom Brady is the GOAT. And when it matters most,
see, this is not a career achievement, yo.
I'm saying, Tom Brady is still Tom Brady because at the end
still Tom Brady.
His numbers don't say otherwise.
Because he's in a pass-happy offense.
Okay, but in the playoffs, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to be pass happy. They're going to throw a lot
of... And when they rush him, what's he going to do? He can't even move out the pocket, yo.
And also, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, they're finally getting on the same page. You know, they had chemistry issues, you know, at the start of the season, but now they're finally getting on the same page. Tom Brady's able to, you know, call his own plays here and there, and, you know, they could cause a lot of damage in the playoffs.
You got them win the Super Bowl, though?
I can see them making it to the NFC Championship, and who knows from there. I don't think any team can beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I don't think whoever comes out of the NFC, maybe the Packers, maybe, you know, but that's still something we have to watch out for. But I think, you know, they're hot right now, and if they catch the wrong team sleeping, they can make a lot of noise.
Well, I'll say this: when it comes to being hot, it's not about when you're hot, or excuse me, it's not about how you're hot. It just matters when. And
momentum matters.
Momentum does matter, but
does matter.
I just do not believe they'll be lucky to get one game, yo. They'll be lucky to get one game. That's how I look at them. Because I just think Brady is so easy to game plan for. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm rushing him every single
Okay, so
play.
right now they're the 5th seed, which means they're playing somebody in the NFC East. That's an easy dub.
Okay. As far as that,
they're the 5th seed right now, and they will be playing the winner of the NFC East. I say they blow whoever that is out by 20 plus.
And what happens when they get past them?
Okay, and they'll probably play one of the better teams, and who knows from there?
No, I know they're gonna lose. I know they're gonna lose. You got to get this out of your head that this is a lifetime achievement award. This is not a lifetime achievement award. This is a right now, and right now Tom Brady is not what he used to be.
He's played good football right now. I will tell you that
against the Lions.
Okay, but
against the Lions, Lions are the Clippers of the NFL.
Okay, Patrick Mahomes has had the last 5 weeks he's been not up to par, but still, you still believe he's Patrick Mahomes, right?
That's different. That's completely different.
I still believe Tom Brady is Tom Brady.
Last time we see Tom Brady in the playoffs, he lost to the Titans. So
okay,
same story next.
We'll move on.
Moving on to our next topic, we have the Patriots. Speaking of Tom Brady, his former team and his coach Bill Belichick. You know, him and Cam Newton, they've had some rough struggles this year. They're currently 6-9, and coming off of a really disappointing loss. Well, I guess it's not disappointing considering that, you know, they're kind of, I would think they're trying to lose this game to get a better draft pick anyways. But, yeah, it was not a good look. I believe it was 38-9. It's complete embarrassment. Cam Newton went 5 of 10, 53 yards, I believe, a rushing touchdown, no passing touchdowns, no picks. I'll give him that. But just not a good look for this team. They just look completely discombobbled, you know. And I'll say this. The question for both of us, and I'll go first, is has Cam Newton become just another guy? And my answer to that is very simple. Yes. Yes. He is just another. He's a Jag. He's just another guy. And I'm a huge Cam Newton fan. You know, I loved him in Carolina. I thought Carolina didn't give him great pieces to work with. His best receiver was Kelvin Benjamin. That's a lot. Greg Olsen was a nice target, don't get me wrong. He was a really good tight end for them, but his receiving core was not that great. Granted, they did surround him with a good defense that year. But, yeah, overall, that receiving core wasn't great. He didn't have the best weapons to work with, but that still doesn't justify what's happening right now. Right now, Cam Newton has 5 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Granted, he has 12 rushing touchdowns. I'll give him that. But 10 interceptions on the year to 5 passing touchdowns is embarrassing. Not only that, he has a QBR that's 45. A QBR of 45. That's worse than Drew Lock, Andy Dalton, and Daniel Jones. That is a disgrace, and Cam Newton is better than that. I believe he's more capable than that. People saw that Seattle Seahawks game that they had. He had over 300 yards completing passing. And people just jump to this conclusion that Cam Newton, you know, he lost his mojo with the COVID stuff. And all those are valid points. But you can't just ignore the fact that he's throwing the ball worse than some bums right now. So as far as I'm concerned, Cam Newton, he's just another guy. It doesn't mean he can't be a good starter on the team. Hell, if Ryan Tannehill can be a starting quarterback, Cam Newton can be a starting quarterback. But at the end of the day, that doesn't just discard the fact that he's just another guy. Look at who I just compared him to, Ryan Tannehill. So to me, Cam Newton is just another guy. And honestly, at this point, not gonna lie to you, even though I said Ryan Tannehill kind of clowned him a little bit, Ryan Tannehill is better than Cam Newton right now. Just to be honest, I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill as my quarterback right now than Cam Newton, and that speaks to the levels of the toll that his body has taken on him, injuries, a lot of things that play factor into that. But yeah, he's just another guy, man.
I will say this. Cam Newton, pre-COVID, he was having an amazing season. He was averaging over 300 yards per game. And yes, I like you brought up the Seattle game because I don't think that was a debacle. Yes, Seattle's defense was awful, but he shredded that defense. He threw the ball extremely well. I don't think you throw for over 300 yards and you're an average guy or you're a scrub. He's fourth in the NFL.
Lightning can strike twice, yo.
He's fourth in the NFL in rushing TDs. That's how mobile he is. He has more passing yards than Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky,
Sam Darnold,
Andy Dalton,
Mitchell Trubisky,
Andy Dalton, who people think is good.
Nobody thinks Andy Dalton is good, yo.
Backup quarterback. He's been called one of the best backup quarterbacks this season. Alex Smith.
Look at the bar you're lowering for him. Look at the guys you're naming.
These guys are average guys.
Andy Dalton is an average guy.
These guys are. Andy Dalton is an average guy.
Who's the other guy you mentioned? You think he's Andy Dalton, and who's the other guy?
You think Mitch Trubisky?
Mitchell Trubisky?
He's having a great end of the year. Do you watch the games? Do you watch the games?
Of course I watched them, but
Mitch Trubisky is having.
If this is the bar for Cam Newton, he's just another guy.
I'm saying
these are just guys.
And also, you got to see who is throwing the ball to. Name more than two Patriots receivers.
Here we go.
Jacoby Myers and nobody else. Julian Edelman has been hurt for most of the season, and he's thrown to basically my dad and your dad. Nobody else. N'Keal Harry is in his second year, and he hasn't fully developed as that top wide receiver that we know he can be. And I think Cam Newton, you put the right pieces around him. And first of all, their offensive line has been really bad. They haven't played up to par, and you put the right pieces around him, I think he can really flourish.
But you're also forgetting they should have beat Buffalo had he not fumbled. He has his
that
own
was
blames.
a fumble.
He has his own blames.
Absolutely,
yo.
he has his own blames.
Faults.
But I think like the games that they get embarrassed in, like the Buffalo game and some of the other games, he has nobody to throw the ball to. Like you watch the games and you look at their routes, nobody's open. He's basically throwing to nobody, and that's why he starts forcing some interceptions. He starts throwing the ball away. Yes, he got to get accurate. He has never been a great accurate passer. Yes, he has to get better at that. But I think if you put the right pieces around him and all of that, he can be a top quarterback in the NFL. And when I say top quarterback, I don't mean like top 10. I mean like, okay, like in the 15 range, just about average, above average. I think he can still be that guy. He can take a team to the playoffs. I think he's still that good.
That's fair, but when you start putting him in conversations with Andy Dalton, that means he's just another guy.
Okay, he's not on the Mahomes and the Tom Brady level, but I think he's
a jag, yo. He's a jag.
Just right above average.
Nah, he's a jag.
Just right above average.
But moving on to our next and final topic, we have Jono with the top 10 teams in the NFL. I pray my Steelers get respect this time. I pray.
Okay. The last segment. My top 10 NFL teams this year, going into week 17, what teams look like contenders, what teams look like pretenders. And let's start off with number 10, the Tennessee Titans. Sitting with a record of 10-5. Yes, they just came off an embarrassing loss to the Green Bay Packers, but when you face Aaron Rodgers, you can't really expect for much because he's going to destroy you regardless. So I don't really hold that loss against them because Aaron Rodgers did what he was supposed to do. And, Tennessee Titans, I don't know what they were doing, but I still trust Mike Vrabel. I still trust Derrick Henry. And, that running game, I don't want to say I trust Ryan Tannehill, but I trust him to make certain plays at certain times, to take them over the top. So the Tennessee Titans at number 9. At number 10. At number 9, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is a team right here that's catching a lot of fire. This is a team that a lot of playoff teams should be worried about because they've got weapons. Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Gronk. Those are top players. And, Tom Brady, playoff Tom, as we know. This team is catching fire right now. And, if they catch the wrong team sleeping, they can make a lot of noise in the playoffs. So watch out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 10-5. At number 8, the Miami Dolphins. Yes, they have a quarterback situation, whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day, they have two really good quarterbacks who can make plays at certain moments of the game. I like what Brian Flores did with this team. They have a top defense in the NFL, that's really solid from back to front. We need to start talking about Xavier Howard as one of the top players in the NFL, as a defensive player of the year. We need to start talking about Xavier
No, he's not.
Howard.
No, he's not. He's not.
We need to start talking about Xavier Howard.
TJ Watt's
He's
award.
shutting down.
TJ Watt. TJ Watt is the defensive player of the year.
He is shutting down players at the back end, and we need to start giving the Miami Dolphins some credit. Let's see if they can, have a strong end of the season and make the playoffs. And in the playoffs, watch out for the Miami Dolphins. That's at number 8. At number 7, are you ready for this? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
My gosh.
At number 7,
my goodness.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a good comeback against the Colts. I'll give you that. But they were down.
It was a great comeback.
Early. They were down big early. They should have never been in that position in the first place. They were down big early. Now, can they build on this win? Can Can Big Ben start cooking? Can Juju return to Juju Smith-Schuster and, be the top receiver, be the top wide receiver we know him to be? Can they be that guy? Can Mike Tomlin gather the troops? And
Can
they have
He's done it before, yo.
They have a good end to the season, and I think the Steelers. If I'm a team, I'm not really worried about them in the playoffs. I'll be honest with you, but they're at 12-3. Yes, they've had an easy schedule, but you can only play who's in front of you. So I put them right now as number 7, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my goodness!
The Baltimore
You cannot be serious.
Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are number 6 right now, sitting with 10-5. I'll tell you this. If you're a team in the AFC right now, you do not want to see the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs because this team, they're coming.
You don't want to see the Ravens in the playoffs?
They're motivated. I think they're playing without a fire in their belly. The Baltimore Ravens right now, Lamar Jackson, I think, has gotten his confidence back. He's gotten everything he needs back. Hollywood Brown is finally catching passes, thank goodness. They get Mark Ingram back, J.K. Dobbins, all those running backs. They get all those players back. The Baltimore Ravens, you don't want to see them in the playoffs right now because I think they're catching a lot of heat and they can make some serious noise in the playoffs. So that's number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 5, Seattle Seahawks. They're my number 5 team in the NFL right now. Just coming off a division clinching win against the Rams, they held Jared Goff to 6 points. 6 points. Jared Goff in that offense and Sean McVay, they are playing some really good football right now. The Seattle Seahawks, Jamal Adams is playing phenomenal right now. He's helping that defense. In the last couple of weeks, they're one of the top defenses in the entire NFL. Let Russ cook and just move out the way. Russell Wilson is going to be Russell Wilson. DK Metcalf is going to be DK Metcalf. And I feel like all those teams that the Seattle Seahawks played earlier in the year that, their defense weren't good enough. They caught them sleeping. But now the Seattle Seahawks are a good team, and, watch out for them in the playoffs. Number 4, New Orleans Saints. The only question I have about the New Orleans Saints is, can Drew Brees just tap into half of what he was last year? Because he has not looked good. Yes, coming off that rib injury and whatnot, but it looks like it's hurting when he's trying to throw the football right now. But, yes, they're sitting at 11-4, but because that defense is legit. So that defense can cover up whatever Drew Brees does on the offensive side of the football. So I got the New Orleans Saints as the number 4 team right now in the NFL. And, they can make some noise in the NFC too. I think the only team that should stand in their way is the Green Bay Packers. And they better get it together at number 4. Number 3, I got the Green Bay Packers sitting at 12-3. Their offense is explosive as it can be. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is motivated. He's playing good football. He's playing great football right now. Davante Adams, I think, should get some MVP votes because he's been playing phenomenal. He's been playing outstanding. And I know a lot of people like to criticize their wide receiving core and think it's just Davante. But, they have certain players, Lazard, Scantling, and all those players, Aaron Jones in the running game. That team is legit. Can they make it to the Super Bowl though? Because last year they were 13-3, and we seen what happened when they played a top defensive team in the 49ers. They stunk it up. So can they overcome that hump and make the Super Bowl this year? Is this Aaron Rodgers' year? We'll wait to find out. But that's number 3, the Green Bay Packers. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. It's about time we start giving Josh Allen some credit because he has been playing phenomenal football. You plug Stephon Diggs in that team, Cole Beasley, and all those pieces around him, Josh Allen has been playing great football. I think right now he's third in my MVP voting because they're sitting at 12-3. They lost one game to Kyler Murray, a Hail Mary shot, so they really should be like 13-2.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Okay.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, bro.
But 12-3, the Buffalo Bills right now are my number 2 team in the NFL. And is there any doubt who is number 1? The Kansas City Chiefs, sitting at 14-1. Yes, you want to say, okay, they got lucky against the Falcons, but as we've seen in the last couple of years, when it matters most, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they come through. Andy Reid, they come through and make the right plays to play winning football. It doesn't matter whether he throws 5 picks, 6, 10. If it's a 1-score game or 2-score game going into the fourth quarter, you're not betting against the Chiefs. And I don't think any team is good enough. Well, maybe the Packers and the Bills have enough explosive on the offense that they can catch the Kansas City Chiefs. And I just think the way Patrick Mahomes is and, Tyreek Hill, we know what all of them are about. Travis Kelce, can Honey Badger gather the troops on defense and be better defensively? Because they've stunk it up defensively. But, offensively, there's no doubt what that team is about. And that's my top 10 team this season in the NFL. Let me run through it again. Number 10, the Tennessee Titans. Number 9, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 8, the Miami Dolphins. Number 7, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 5, Seattle Seahawks. Number 4, New Orleans Saints. Number 3, the Green Bay Packers. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. And number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. That's my top 10 teams going into the final week of the NFL season, Week 17. What do you say, my friend?
That was an awful list. So disappointed in you, John. I've taught you better than this, man.
What?
The fact that, oh my goodness, the fact that you have the Ravens
The Ravens are playing good
above
football
the
right
Steelers. First of all the criticism that you want to give the Steelers can apply essentially to the Ravens. They have the same schedule as us. Not only that,
They've played tougher teams. They have played way tougher teams.
like who?
And they dealt with COVID the whole season.
We dealt with COVID too, bro. We had 3 games in like what? A 12-game span?
Losing to the
12-day
Bengals is
span?
inexcusable. That's inexcusable.
But did we not beat the Ravens when they were healthy before COVID?
But if you watch the games, they outplayed y'all.
Oh my God,
That
yo.
game, they
Shoulda,
outplayed
coulda,
them.
woulda. We
Okay,
won.
okay,
We won.
okay.
And you talk about quarterbacks not being able to throw down the field. Lamar Jackson can't throw down the field.
But the running game bails them out. The running game.
Okay, and
is-
you're talking about you mentioned, you said something about the Ravens in the playoffs. What have they done over the last 2 years in the playoffs? They've
I'm saying
choked.
the momentum they have right now.
Okay,
They're
and
catching
they had
fire.
momentum. They had just
They're
as much
playing
momentum
good
last
football.
year. They had just as much momentum last year. And what stopped them? Lamar Jackson's inability to throw the ball down the field with accuracy. That's what stopped them.
Okay.
So how can you have them above the Steelers when at least Ben has shown the ability to step
Whoa,
up?
whoa.
Ben can at least throw the ball down the field better than Lamar Jackson can.
Okay, agreed, but he hasn't showed that this season because it's
What has Lamar shown?
big and dunk.
Lamar showed throwing the ball even worse than he did last year, yo. Even worse than last year.
The Ravens are playing good football right now. They have a great defense. That running game is legit and elite. And you can't stop it. Steelers don't have a running game.
To have the Seahawks
The
above
Steelers
them
don't
is
have a
also
run-
ridiculous because not only does the Seahawks defense suck, but they have a safety that's low-key a linebacker. Jamal Adams is
Seattle
low-key a
Seahawks,
linebacker.
their defense has gotten better.
Oh,
If you look
please.
over the last
Oh,
couple of
please.
weeks, their defense has gotten
They stink.
way better, my friend.
They stink.
It's okay. It's okay.
But,
I know you wish your Steelers were higher, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that stock in the playoffs. I'm just not.
Well,
I'm just not.
regardless of his list, it's awful. We all know it
I'm
stinks.
just not buying your stock.
But in regards to this list, it is what it is. that concludes this episode, though. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you drop a like on this video. Also, do not forget to download the Cryout Media app. We're live on that app every Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure you check us out. But stay tuned for more episodes. Y'all have a great day. We're out. Peace.